Guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Landon and we are here again today for me to read on camera again. I hope y'all are ready. So if you have not known, if you're new to the channel or whatever, we have been going through every single piece of the storyline, okay? From the videos to the images to the actual notes. And I have been doing my best to try to figure things out, but there's no promises here, okay? But what we're gonna do today is to go through all the HYYH, the notes from the Tier album, kind of like we did last time when we read them out. And I know everybody's saying we're gonna get to the webtoon eventually. Once again, we are following the schedule, so when things were released, to see the ARMY experience. Look, I got a little double ray bun back here, not a triple, it's fine. Don't mind me, okay? I'm working on soothing my throat for this one. Not worrying about my hair too much, but it's alright, it's alright, it's alright. So yeah, we're gonna go through each one. Like last time, there were different notes given with different versions of the album. So I wanna say thank you again to Emily this morning for going through. I forgot to ask early to find the unique ones. So it'll be as follows. All of the members, we're gonna read all of their Y notes. And in case you weren't familiar, there were notes that came with each YOUR version of Tier. We will open those eventually, I promise. I'm going to get and do a big opening video soon. Just little setbacks, little setback. We're gonna go through all the Y's. Then for Suga, J-Hope, Jimin, and V, we're gonna go over the O note because that one was a little different. For Jin, we're gonna go over the R note because that one was a little different. And then for June and Jungkook, we're gonna go over the U note because those are different. So if you're ready to hear me read on camera for 30 minutes or so, strap up. If you have not heard these notes, buckle up, take your notebook out. And before we begin, I do want to give a trigger warning. I know last time I read these notes, things got a little dark. I haven't read them yet, so I have no idea where they're gonna go. This is all a reaction. So trigger warning now. If you are not a big fan of things getting a little dark, maybe this video is not for you, but I just want to give y'all a warning out there. Without any further ado, y'all, let's read these notes. So we're gonna start with Jin. Note number 1, August 30th, year 22. Can anyone remember the moment they fell in love? Can anyone predict the moment their love will end? What could be the reason that humans don't have the ability to recognize those moments? And why was I given the power to return or restore all of those things? Given the power to return or restore love? So he's like the love maker. Okay. The car comes to a sudden stop. The headlights flashing, crashing, bouncing, falling. I did nothing but stand defenseless in the face of all of those moments. I heard no sound and felt no sensation. It was summer, but the wind seemed cold. There was the sound of something tumbling along the street. Then there was a scent of flowers. Only then did a sense of reality come to me. The bouquet of Smeraldo flowers fell from my hand. Okay. She was lying there in the middle of the street. Okay, we highlight reel. There was blood flowing in between the strands of her hair. Okay, trigger warning, definitely for this one. The dark red blood flowed along the street. I thought if only I could turn back time. Okay, so this is definitely bringing us back to the end, I think, of the highlight reel where Jin sees his date and gets the flowers and tries to go see it, but all of a sudden it turns purple and like the world stops. For a minute, I'm guessing this is what happens. Listen, I do also want to show you guys this. So this is something fun that I've been working on. This is a timeline that I pulled apart and created. I haven't shown really anybody yet except maybe the bot and stuff, from the years, from the notes, from the videos where they have dates in the corners. So I'm just kind of trying to compile that together. What I'm going to do after this is take all of these dates and put them into this timeline to see if it can help at all. I don't know, but we're trying. I just want to show you guys this because it took a very long time and I'm sure it's not worth it. But anyway, let's go now to Jin Y2, his second note. So it says, July 17th, year 20. So we're going back. Past the school doors, the sound of cicadas prickled my ears. The schoolyard was crowded with kids laughing and playing and competing in races. It was the start of summer vacation and everyone was chattering. I ducked my head and walked in between them. I wanted to leave as quickly as I could. Just saying, that's how I'll be at school too. I was like, don't look at me. Hyung, I lifted my head, surprised by the sudden appearance of someone's shadow. It was Hosaka and Jimin. They leaned at me, their smiles as wide and bright as ever, and their eyes full of mischief. Oh, what y'all been doing? Today is the start of vacation. Are you just gonna leave? Hosaka added, tugging on my arm. I muttered, sure, and a few more meaningless words, then turned my head away. What had happened that day was clearly an accident. It wasn't intentional. I hadn't imagined that Jungkook and Yoongi would be in the storage room at that time. What does that mean? Okay. The principal suspected that I was covering for my dongsangs. He said that he could tell my father that I hadn't been a good student. I had to say something. I had mentioned the hideout because I thought that it was empty, but in the end, HYYH had gotten expelled. Okay, so that was the moment where they fought the teacher thing, and nobody knew that I had been complicit. Have a good vacation, Young, I'll call you. Maybe having interrupted my expression, Hosak let his hand drop slightly and forced an even brighter greeting. I couldn't answer this time either. There was nothing I could say. As I passed the school gate, I thought of the first day I had come to this school. We had all been punished for tardiness together. We could laugh because of it. I ruined those moments, okay? So he's just bringing back to the days when him and his bros were just cutting class, like nothing crazy. And now it's all over, apparently. Okay. So this kind of draws back in. They were all hanging out together and they were connected. I mean, so that's a good thing to know. All right. So Jin R's note is the same for note 1, but note 2 is different. So this is Jin R. April 11th, year 22. With a screech, the car barely came to a halt. I had been so lost in thought that I hadn't noticed the light changing. Students in familiar uniforms crossed the street and stared at me through the window. Some people were pointing. I forced a smile and bowed my head. I knew what I had to do, but I wasn't unafraid. Could I really put an end to all of these misfortunes and hurts? Does repeating the same failure mean that success is impossible? Isn't it telling me to give up? Could happiness be nothing more than a meaningless hope for us? Uncountable thoughts passed through my head. At some point, I approached the intersection with the gas station, and a ways off, I could see Namjoon filling cars. I took a huge breath and let it out slowly. I tried to recall their faces one by one: Yoongi, Hosak, Jimin, Taehyung, Jungkook. Then I changed lanes and entered the gas station. I couldn't give up. If there was even a 1% chance, I wouldn't give up. Through the window, I saw Namjoon approach. I felt like that scene, I saw that as well. In maybe the highlight reel? I can't remember exactly where. I'm going to have to piece them together. Okay, so that was Jin. Added on a lot here. Like I say, this is a reaction video, not an analysis video, so don't expect me to be connecting the dots today. I will make some videos in the future where I will put all these notes and videos and clips together, hopefully, and create some storyline videos if you guys are interested. But right now, we just reacted. So it ain't going good, but it's going great at the same time. Okay, next we're gonna move on to Suga's notes from Y and see why this happened. Yoongi Y, June 15th, year 22. I was unaware of anything other than the sound of music playing in my head. Not how much I had drunk, nor where I was, nor what I had been doing. I didn't know, and it wasn't important. When I went outside stumbling, it was already night. I swayed as I walked. I bumped into pedestrians and news kiosks. I didn't care. I just wanted to forget everything. I feel like I remember him walking around drunk in the storyline. Jimin's voice was still ringing in my ears. Young, Jungkook. My next memory was of running like crazy up the hospital steps. The hospital hall had been strangely long and dark. I passed people wearing hospital gowns and my heart pounded. Everyone's faces were too pale. Yoongi, we the same. Our faces is pale too, boo-boo. It's alright, I get what you mean. Trying to find the humor in the hospital. I like hospitals. They had no expressions. They all seemed like dead people. The sound of my breathing was harsh inside my own head. Inside the slightly opened hospital room door, Jungkook was lying there. I turned my head without realizing it. I couldn't look at him. At that moment, I'd suddenly heard the sound of a piano, of flames, of a building crumbling down. So this is bringing us back to when he burned down the music shop. I clutched my head and sank down. This is your fault. If it wasn't for you, it was my mother's voice. No, my voice. No, someone's voice. At those words, I was tormented by countless moments. I wanted to believe it wasn't so, but Jungkook was lying there. Jungkook was lying in the hall full of corpse-like patients passing by. I was utterly unable to go inside. I couldn't check for myself. When I stood, my legs threatened to give out. I left with tears flowing. It was funny. I couldn't even remember the last time I cried. And now he's like sobbing. I went to cross the street, but someone grabbed my arm and I came to a halt. Who was it? No, I didn't care. No matter who it was all the same. Don't come near me. Go away. Just leave me. I don't want to hurt you either. I don't want to be hurt, so please don't come any closer. So one of his youngs probably coming in to try to like soothe him or help him, and Suga not having it. He said, not today. Oh, not today. All right, let's go to Suga Y. 3 years and 3 days earlier, June 12th, year 19, Suga Y2. I thoughtlessly did school, but truthfully, I didn't have anywhere to go. It was hot, I had no money, and I had nothing to do. It was Namjoon who said we should go to the beach. The younger kids seemed excited, but I didn't particularly feel like it, nor did I dislike the idea. Do we have money? At my question, Namjoon made everyone shake out their pockets, a few coins, a few bills, so we can't go. The one who said we could just walk was probably Taehyung. Namjoon made a face begging them to reconsider, but the kids just chattered away, laughing and pretending to roll around on the road before starting to walk. I wasn't in the mood to talk back, so I just fell behind. It was midday, so even the ginkgo trees couldn't provide shade, and the cars kicked up dust as they passed us on the sidewalkless road. let's go there. It was Taehyung this time too. Or was it Hosak? I didn't care, so I didn't look carefully, but it would have been one of them. I'm laughing because like Suga out here having full-on conversations, having full-on people talk to him. He must be in this place of just isolation because he just doesn't know who's talking to him ever. Or at least the notes are just not trying to tell him. I've been walking along with my head down, kicking the dirt, but when I almost collided with someone, I lifted my head. Jimin was standing there as if froze in place. The muscles of his face trembled as if he had seen something terrifying. He was staring at a sign that said Flowering Arboretum. 2.2 kilometers. You can see I've never been to an arboretum. Avi. Hope that's how you say it. I didn't want to walk. I heard Jungkook's voice. Sweat dripped down from Jimin's face. His face went pale as if he might collapse at any second. What is this? I had a strange feeling. Park Jimin, I called. But as I expected, he didn't budge. I lifted my head again and looked at the sign. Hey, it's so hot. Why do we have to go to an arboretum? Arboretum. Why do we have to go to an arboretum? Y'all like this is the stupidest little southern boy ever. I said as if dragging my feet. I didn't know what kind of place the arboretum was. Same girl, you know how to say it though? But it didn't seem like somewhere we should go. Whatever the reason, Jimin's expression was strange. We don't even have money, Hoseok replied. That's why we're walking. And Taehyung added, if we just walk to the train station, we could probably make it. Then Namjoon said, instead, we'll just starve at dinner. Jungkook and Taehyung pretended to cry, and so Jin-Young laughed. Jimin only started to move again once it had been decided that we would take the road toward the train station. Walking with his head down and his shoulders trembling, Jimin seemed like a small child. I looked up at the sign again, the character spelling Flower Arboretum were gradually furthering away. Let me just see now so y'all don't call me out.
Arboretum.
Arboretum. Arboretum? Are you sure that's not southern people doing that? Y'all going down to that arboretum over there? Oh, shit. Alright, that was Suga Y notes. Let's do Suga O notes now. Oh. September 19th, year 16. So we're going way back. The fire burned crimson red. The house I lived in until morning was engulfed in the flames. So this is the house fire that got rid of the piano? I don't know. People who recognized me ran up shouting something. The neighborhood people walked with quick steps. They said the entrance wasn't safe, so the fire truck couldn't come in. It stopped where it was. The very end of summer, it was the beginning of autumn. The sky was blue and the air was dry. I didn't know what I should think, what I should do. Then the thought, mom, feels so nice, mom, I feel so nice, came to me in the moment. The house collapsed with a loud sound. The house engulfed in flames. No, the house that had become flames itself. Shit. Ugh. Chills, the roof, the pillars, even my room crumbled like it was a house of sand. I stood dazedly and watched it. Someone pushed past me. They were saying the fire truck had entered. Another person grabbed me and pressed me for an answer. That person looked into my eyes and shouted a question, but I didn't hear anything. Is anyone inside? I stared dumbly at that person. Is your mom inside? The person grabbed my shoulder and shook me. Unwittingly I replied, no, there's no one. Okay, what are you talking about? A neighborhood woman said, what about your mom? Did she go somewhere? There's no one. Even I didn't know what I was saying. Someone pushed me again. Suga, I hope that you are not in this complete, frantic, confused state that you are allowing the firefighters not to go and try to rescue your mother. That's kind of scary. Okay, that's Yu-Gi-Oh. Yu-Gi-Oh. Now we're going to read RMY. Going back to July 13th, year 22. Let's go. RM Namjoon. I rested my head against the bus window. From the library to the gas station, the scenery passed by the window, almost frighteningly familiar since I took this route every day. Would there come a day I could leave the scenery behind? I felt that it was impossible to predict what tomorrow would bring, nor to hope for anything. And I really like to feel this. Every single day when I used to go home from school or go home from anywhere, I'll just pass up like sugarcane fields all along the side of me, even if I was a driver or a passenger or whatever. And I always thought to myself, am I always going to see that? Like, is this life? Sugarcane, you know? Now, no. Now I just see people everywhere. I could see there was a woman sitting in the front of me, her hair tied. So is this the hair tie thing? But no, he would have got it from her. With a yellow rubber band. Her shoulders lifted and then dropped as if she was sighing. Then she rested her head again against the window. For another month already, we had studied at the same library and gotten on the bus at the same stop. We hadn't spoken a word to each other, but we looked at the same scenery and lived on the same time. Like how... That's so brilliant. And sighed at the same size. The hair tie was still in my pants pocket. Okay, so he does have the tie. He has the tie. The woman always got off the bus 3 stops before I did. Every time I saw her leave, I wondered if she was going to distribute flyers. She's a flyer distributor. I wonder what for. What kind of time was she spending? What kind of things was she enduring? How strongly did she feel stifled at the thought that tomorrow might not come? Or that from the beginning, there had never been such a thing as tomorrow? I thought things like that. Don't. Just kidding. I do too, all the time. Very existential crises. The woman stopped, began to approach, someone pressed the stop request button, and other passengers got up from their seats. But in the midst of this, the woman didn't stir. She just stayed in her seat. Her head against the window, it seemed like she was asleep. Should I go and wake her up? I followed myself for a moment. The bus approached a stop. The woman didn't move. People disembarked. The doors closed, and the bus started to move. The woman didn't wake. Even as we passed the next 3 stops, as I moved to the bus door, I fought with myself again. It was clear that once I got off the bus, no one was going to pay attention to her. She would wake up somewhere far from her stop, and it was impossible to know how much more tired she would be today because of it. I left the bus stop and started to walk towards the gas station. The bus took off and I didn't look back. I had left the hair tie on top of her bag, but that was it. Oh no. That wasn't a beginning as such, nor was it an end. It was nothing to start with, and there was no reason for it to be anything. So I thought it really didn't matter. Vroom, you should have woke her up. Poor girl. That poor girl. All right, let's read RMY2. December 17th, year 21. So we're going back a year. The people waiting for the first bus rubbed their hands together in the cold. I looked down at the dirt, clutching the strap of my bag. I was trying not to make eye contact with anyone. It was a countryside village where only 2 buses stopped per day. From a distance, I saw the first bus approaching. I boarded the bus behind everyone else. I didn't look back when I was passionate about something, when I barely had something in my grasp, when I had nothing left but things to escape. I had conditions. I wasn't to look back. The moment I looked back, the efforts I'd made until now became a little more than sea foam. Looking back, there was a kind of suspicion, a kind of lingering attachment, and a kind of fear. Only when I'd overcome these things could I finally escape. So his fear keeps him from looking back. He has an agreement within himself to never look back, never wonder. I like that. Kind of. The bus started off. I had no plans. I had nothing I was passionate about, nothing in my grasp, no particular reason to escape. It was closer to thoughtlessly running away. My mother's tired face, my wandering sibling, my father's illness, starting with the situation in our house that grew more difficult with every passing day. From my family, who enforced sacrifice and tranquility, and from me, who pretended to know nothing and restrained myself, trying to adjust and grow resigned. And most of all, away from poverty. If anyone asks if it's a crime to be poor, everyone would say it's not. But is that really the truth? Poverty gnaws on so many things. Things that were precious become meaningless. You give up things you can't give up on. You grow suspicious and fearful and resigned. The bus would arrive at a familiar stop in a few hours. When I left from that place a year ago, I had left no messages behind, and now I was returning with no sign or warning. I tried to recall my friends' faces. I had cut off contact with all of them. What were they all doing these days? Would they be glad to see me? Would they be able to get together and laugh the way we had back then? There was frost on the windows and I couldn't see the scenery outside. On the top of the frost, I slowly moved my finger. You have to survive, okay? From what video was that? Oh my god, wait, was it Run or I Need You or like a Japanese version or something? Didn't he write that on the mirror? Bitch, we gotta go make connections after this. Okay. All right, RM has a special one in U. So his U note is different. So let's read that one. May 22nd, year 22, my dad's birthday. It's barely a year's difference. No, nobody said that. I miss Young. I know, but he won't get away. Okay, I'm gonna restart that sentence. I feel like I'm not reading it right. It's barely a year difference. No, nobody said that. I miss Young. I know, but we won't always be a little kid. I'm asking if it isn't about time for him to know a little. Got it? I get it. I'm not mad. Sorry. I don't think I get it. You got it and get it. I don't got it and get it. Who are we talking to? I hung up. Okay, he was on the phone. I hung up and stared at the ground. A tepid ocean breeze swept through the pine forest. My chest felt so stifled it might explode. On the ground, half sand and half dirt, some ants had formed a line and were going somewhere. To someone far greater than me, both physically and symbolically, would it be obvious that I was going somewhere? Why I was going and how it would turn out? What? It wasn't that I didn't love my parents. It wasn't, oh, this must be him thinking about running away, maybe. It wasn't that I didn't worry about my siblings. I wanted to turn away if I could, but since I couldn't help being myself, of course, I wasn't entirely able to. And in that case, what point was there in struggling or being angry or being frustrated or wanting to leave? A little ways off, I could see the back of someone else standing transfixed just as I was. It was Jungkook. At some point, Jungkook had said something like this. I want to be an adult like Young. I couldn't tell him back then that I wasn't that great of an adult. No, that I wasn't even an adult. Saying something like that had seemed cruel. To someone who hadn't received the love and trust and interest that he naturally should have, how could I say that getting older, getting taller, and living a little more doesn't make someone an adult? Bitch. I hope that Jungkook's future would be a little kinder than mine, but I couldn't promise that. I would be a help to him in that process. I approached him and put my arm over his shoulders. Jungkook lifted his eyes and looked at me. So we just trying to be the big brother and let him know it doesn't get easier. As you get older, it gets harder, by the way. Just to let you know. Okay, thank you. Okay, well, let us move on to J-Hope and his Y notes. All right, July 4th, year 22. Not, I guess, technically 4th of July because it's in Korea, but July 4th. I stood in the hallway the whole time she was receiving first aid. Okay, jumping right in, huh? Even though it was night, the hospital hallway was bustling with people. Moisture dripped from my hair, wet with sweat and rain. I dropped the bag I had taken off of her. A variety of things tumbled out of it. A few coins rolled away and a ball pen and a towel. In the middle of it all was an airplane e-ticket. I picked it up and scanned it. You had a scanner? You mean with your eyes? At that moment, the doctor called me. He said it was a mild concussion and nothing to worry about. And after a moment, she came out as well. Are you okay? She said that her head just hurt a little and she took her bag back from me. Then she spotted the e-ticket picking out and looked up in my face. I shifted my bag, my other shoulder, and said that we should go. I said, bye girl, I ain't did shit. Pretending that it was nothing. As we left the hospital, it was raining as hard as ever. We stood side by side outside the door. Hosaka, I can't ever do that. She said. It looked like she had something to say. Wait a second. I'll get an umbrella. I ran off thoughtlessly into the rain. There was a convenience store in the distance. I knew that she had auditioned for an overseas dance team some time ago. The plane ticket meant that she had made it. I didn't want to hear her say it. I didn't have the confidence to congratulate her. Oh, your love is leaving. Love lost. Okay, so we're going back to the next Y note from Hobie, July 23rd, year 10. So going back in time. When I counted to 3, I heard the sound of laughter like an hallucination. The next moment, the young me passed by holding someone's hand. I looked back quickly, but there was no one there except my classmates staring at me. Hosaka, the teacher called my name. Only then did I realize where I was. It was a class field trip. I was counting the fruits that were drawn in the textbook. 5, 6. I kept counting, but as I did, my voice trembled and my hands grew sweaty. The memory of that time kept surfacing. So we're already having traumatic memories when you're a child to win. I couldn't clearly remember my mother's face. Oh, that day, I only remembered the chocolate bar she gave me. I only remember the chocolate bar she gave me. Chocolate bar she gave me. I'm trying not to cry. I'm happy because we're at Snickers. I'm sad because all I remember was the chocolate bar, but the chocolate bar she gave me. Okay, Hosaka. As we looked around the amusement park, Hosaka, count to 10 and then open your eyes. When I had finished counting and opened my eyes, my mother was gone. I waited and waited, but she never returned. I had only counted to 9. If I counted one more, it would be fine. No. Hey parents, stop. My voice wouldn't come out. My ears were ringing and my surroundings grew cloudy. The teacher kept pointing, telling me to keep counting. My friends were staring at me. I couldn't remember my mother's face. It seemed, I couldn't remember my mother's face. That's the whole Eva thing, becoming, okay, sorry. It seemed like if I counted one more, my mother would really never come back for me. Oh my God, that's so traumatic. This is so traumatic. Okay, just like that, I collapsed to the ground and then you pass out. I know, girl. Oh my God. Okay. Kat's looking at me like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, girl. No, girl. All right, let's go and read J-Hope's last note here. His special note is in May 20th, year 20. I took Taehyung and faced the police officer. We've worked hard. Although my head was bowed and I spoke firmly, that wasn't my mood. It wasn't far from the police station to Taehyung's house. If he lived in some far-off place, would he not have been in and out of the police station this often? Why had Taehyung's parents chosen a place so close to the police station? The world was so unfair to such a foolishly kind and tender kid. I slung my arm over Taehyung's shoulders and asked if he was hungry, acting like it would be no big deal. Taehyung shook his head. I asked if the police were so glad to see him that they bought him food, but he didn't reply. Hobie trying to be the lightness, airiness. We walked into the sunlight. In my heart, a cold wind blew. If I feel this way, how does he feel? How torn and broken was his heart? Did he have a heart left at all? How much torment must be inside? Thinking all these thoughts, I couldn't look at him, so instead I looked at the sky. In the blurry sunlight, a plane was passing by. The first time I had seen the wounds on Taehyung's back was the first time I met him in Namjoon's container hideout. Noted. I didn't say anything to Taehyung, who was laughing brightly for having gotten a t-shirt, but a place in my heart I collapsed with a thud. I had no parents. Okay. I had no memories of a father, and my memories of my mother had only lasted until I was 7 years old. When it came to pain regarding families, no one would be envious of mine. People said things like this, that you have to overcome your pain, accept it, and get used to it, that you have to reconcile and forgive. That only when you do that, you can live. It wasn't that I couldn't because I didn't know. It wasn't a refusal because I didn't know, because I didn't want to. Nothing is achieved just because you try. No one told me how. The world gave me new wounds before the old ones had healed. I knew there was no one in the world who didn't have wounds, but why did anyone need such deep ones? Why were they necessary? Why did things like this happen? It's okay, Hyung, I can go along. Taehyung said at the fork of the road, I know, jerk. I paid it no mind and took the lead. I said I'm fine, look, it's nothing. Taehyung tried to smile. I didn't answer. There was no way he was okay. He wasn't okay, but he couldn't stand acknowledging it. He was turning away. That was his habit. Taehyung flipped up his hood and followed. You're really not hungry? I asked as we approached the path leading to Taehyung's house. Taehyung smiled with his foolish smiles and nodded. I watched his retreating back, then turned away. The path he walked and the path I walked were both narrow and desolate. We were both alone. I suddenly turned to look behind me when my phone rang. Bitch, who called it? Okay, now let's go on to Jimin. Same date in his Y notes, July 4th, year 22. That was the same as HYYH? Yeah, as HYYH. So, okay, same day as HYYH. Let's see. It says, by the time I returned to my senses, I had washed my arm so much that I was losing skin. My hands were trembling and I was short of breath. My eyes in the mirror were bloodshot. What had just happened came back to me in fragments. Okay. So is this like the scene when Jimin is washing blood off? Is that okay? Don't worry about it at all. Don't freak out. For a moment, I had lost focus. I was dancing with a Nuna from the dance club, a collaborative dance, but had lost my flow and we collided. I fell to the rough floor and my arms started to bleed. At that moment, I had remembered what happened at the flowering arboretum. What was it? Damn. At that moment, I had remembered what happened at the flowering arboretum. I thought that I had overcome it. But that wasn't the case. I had to run away. I had to wash it away. I had to look away. The me in the mirror was the same 8-year-old kid who had run away in the rain. Then all at once I realized Nuna had fallen down too. There was nobody in the practice room, though the open door I could see that rain was falling heavily. In the distance I saw Ho Suk-young running. He was being rained on. I took an umbrella and ran out to him. I ran and then I stopped. There was nothing I could do. All I could do was fall and hurt someone, leave them behind and tremble at my own pain, and then run after them too late with an umbrella before stopping. Every time I took a step, rainwater soaked in my sneakers. Car headlights passed by me. It wasn't okay. No, it was okay. It did hurt. It wasn't that serious an injury. I was really okay. So he's trying to compare, tell himself that everything is fine. He needs to focus on other people and stop worrying about himself, I guess, more so. Let's go to Jimin Y2. All right, I'm spitting everywhere. So a couple months before that, this is May 19th, year 22. In the end, I had to go to the flowering arboretum. I had to quit telling myself the lie that I didn't remember what had happened there. So everything's going down in the arboretum, and I'm not ready for it. I had to stop living and hiding in the hospital and stop having seizures. If I wanted to do that, I had to go to that place. With that intent, I went to the bus stop every day, but I couldn't ride the bus at the arboretum. Hyung came and sat next to me, but after I'd already let 3 buses go by. I asked what was up, and Hyung said that he was bored and had nothing to do. Then he asked why I was sitting here like this. I lowered my head and kicked the dirt with the toes of my shoes. I thought about why I was sitting here like this. It was because I had no courage. I wanted to pretend I was okay now, that I knew a little, that I surpassed it on my own. But in truth, I was afraid. I was afraid that I might encounter something, that I might not withstand it, that I might have another seizure. So I guess Jimin's over here having seizures too. That's scary. Hyung looked relaxed. He slumped down like he had not a thing in the world to worry him, and said that the weather was nice, said all kinds of useless things. After I heard that, I realized the weather really was nice. I've been so worried that I didn't bother looking at my surroundings. The sky was so blue. A warm breeze blew on occasion. From far off, the shuttle bus for the arboretum was coming. The bus stopped and the door opened. The driver looked at me. On impulse, I spoke. Hyung, do you want to come with me? So maybe bringing Suga along with him to the arboretum will be able to help him get over that fear. So I'm really hoping that you men can help each other out here. All right, let's go to Jimin's next note, which is, oh, as in oh no, as in oh my god, as in oh shit. Okay. Or okay. This is April 6th, year 11. We're going back in time, baby. I faced the gates of the flowering Arboretum alone. The weather was gray and a little cold, but I was in a good mood. It was the day of the picnic, but my mom and dad were both busy. I was a little disappointed at first, but at the flower drawing contest, I had been praised, and my friend's mother said, "Wow, Jimin is so mature." I had seemed a little cool then. "Jimin, wait here. Teacher will come soon." When the picnic ended, when the panic ended, girl, it's just starting. When the picnic ended, my teacher had asked this, but I hadn't waited. I was confident that I could go by myself. I grasped the straps of my rucksack with both hands and walked maturely. It seemed like others were looking at me, so I spread my shoulders even wider. Quite a while later, it started to rain. My friends and their moms had all left, and no one was looking after me, and my legs hurt. I covered my head with my rucksack and crouched under a tree. The rain started to come down harder, and there was nobody passing by. Eventually, I started to run through the rain. I didn't see any houses or stores. The place I arrived to was the back gate of the Arboretum. The side door was open, and through it, I could see a storage room of some sort. So he's breaking and entering that caused him to have this thing. Arboretum. Arboretum. I don't need that anymore, okay? I got this. I got this. And the Arboretum is going down for real. Okay. All right, so let's move on to Taehyung. Time for V, baby. We're gonna start with his Y first. So this is July 17th, year 22, same time-ish. Tay says, "My side hurt so badly it seemed to be tearing. Sweat fell in drops in the nooks and crannies of the railroad in the vacant lot behind the convenience store under the overpass. The girl was nowhere to be found. I had even run to the bus stop, but as expected, I didn't see her. The people waiting for the buses looked at me strangely. What had happened? We hadn't promised to meet, but it was still strange. That girl always appeared from somewhere and followed me around, even though I told her it was annoying. It was no use. But now she was nowhere to be found, even in places we used to go together. I came to a familiar wall and slowed my step. There was graffiti there we had drawn together. He's a little graffiti fiend, we know that. It was the first thing she had ever drawn. On top of it, there was a large X drawn. It was her. I hadn't seen her do it, but I knew. Why? There was no response. Instead, several after images overlapped on the wall. Her laughing at me after I had laid down on the railroad tracks and hit my head. Her helping me up after I'd fallen trying to help her run away. Her angry face after I'd stolen and eaten her bread. Her cloudy expression when we passed in front of the photo studio with a family photo in the window. Her gaze following the students we passed by, unbeknownst even to her. As we had sprayed this wall together, I had said, "If you have a problem, tell me about it. Don't just grumble to yourself." The X was drawn over all those memories. It seemed like it was saying all of it was fake. It seemed like it was saying they were all lies. Without realizing, I had made my hands into fists. Why? Of course, there was no response. I kept walking. We were alone again, me and her. But was she there or not? She made up. In your head? I don't know. Let's go to V2. VY2. This is March 20th, year 20. So about 2 years ahead, back, past. I slid down the hallway, my feet making noisy sounds. Then I stopped. I could see Namjoon standing in front of our classroom. Our classroom. Nobody knew this, but I called that place our classroom. Me and the Hyungs and Jungkook, it was ours. I caught my breath and approached. I was going to startle him. He was going to scare him. "Principal!" I had barely taken 5 steps when I heard an urgent voice through the open classroom window. It seemed like Seokjin Hyung. I stopped walking. Was Seokjin Hyung talking to the principal right now in our classroom? Why? Then I heard my name, and Yoongi Hyungs and I saw Namjoon Hyung draw a startled breath. As if I hadn't sensed it, Seokjin Hyung suddenly opened the door. There was a phone in Seokjin's hand. His shock and confusion was plain on his face. I couldn't see Namjoon's expression. I hid and watched. Seokjin opened his mouth and maybe to make an excuse, but Namjoon lifted a hand and spoke. "It's okay." Seokjin looked confused. Hyung must have had a reason. After he spoke, Namjoon passed by Seokjin and went into the classroom. I couldn't believe it. Seokjin told the principal what Yoongi and I had done for the last several days. He told everything about skipping class and climbing over the wall and fighting with other kids, but Namjoon said that was all okay. Hello? She's over me. She's like ran across the chair, bed, desk to get to me and just look at me over here, Penelope. Anyway, "What are you doing here?" said to Penelope. I turned around in shock. It was Ho-suk and Jimin. Ho-suk Hyung pretended to be even more shocked, then slung his arm over my shoulders. In a moment of confusion, I let Ho-suk pull me into the classroom. Namjoon Hyung and Seokjin were talking, and they looked up. Seokjin Hyung got up in the hurry and saying something had come up, left the classroom. I looked at Namjoon's expression. He had watched Seokjin retreating back, but now he laughed as if nothing was wrong. At that moment, a thought occurred to me. Namjoon must have had a reason, because Hyung knew more than me and was smarter and older. And because that was our classroom, I went to the classroom smiling the foolish smile that the others teasingly called my square smile. I thought that I wouldn't tell anyone else that I had overheard that conversation. Okay, so Taehyung's just out here hearing everybody telling him and stuff, and he going to jail, and he's like, is that y'all's fault? Is it y'all's fault? Do I have a criminal record? No, definitely not. But as a kid, it could be taken like that. Maybe. Like he's ratting on him. I don't know. Let's go to Tae's last note here on May 20th, year 22. So this was after the March 17th, July 4th, all that. I need a timeline. I looked down at my hand. It was stained with blood. Okay. Suddenly, all the strength went out of my legs. I started to collapse, but someone caught me from behind. Murky sunlight was coming in through the window. Someone was crying and Hyung was standing wordlessly. The dirty household goods and blankets were spread out as they always were. There was no one there where my father had stood. I couldn't recall when or how he had left the room. I know. The rage and sadness I felt in the moment I attacked him were still intact inside me. I didn't know what had held me back from stabbing him. I didn't know how I could comfort my heart, which seemed like it might go crazy. I didn't want to kill my father. I wanted to die. If I could, I wanted to die in that very moment. I didn't cry. I wanted to cry. I wanted to scream. I wanted to kick and destroy and ruin things. I wanted to mess everything up, but couldn't do any one of those things. Hyung, I'm sorry. I'm okay, so just go. My voice came out dryly, at odds with my heart's madness. It didn't seem like my voice. I sent away Hyung, who didn't seem like he wanted to leave, and then stared down at my hands. Blood was seeping out from the white bandage. Instead of stabbing my father, I had hit the floor with the alcohol bottle. The bottle had shattered and cut my hand. When I closed my eyes, the world spun. What should I think? What should I do? How should I live? When I came to my senses, I was looking down at Hyung's phone number. Even the situation, no, because I was in the situation. I valued his existence so much more. I wanted to tell him, Hyung, I almost killed my father. My father who raised me, my father beat me like hell every day. No, truthfully, I killed him. I killed him so many times. In my heart, I killed him so many times. I can't even begin to count them. I want to kill him. I want to utterly kill him. I don't know what to do now. I don't know anything, Hyung. I just want to see you now. Okay. Okay. So he did kill him metaphorically or really? I don't know, but it does remind me of the video when Tae was covered in blood and he picked up his phone and he was like, yeah. They're all getting mixed up in my head. I can't remember what part of the storyline video that was, but I'm gonna figure it out. Don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. We have one more member left, and that is JK. So without any further ado, let's see what he's got to say. July 26th, year 22. So we're still in year 22. I sneakily broke a flower off the hospital's wreath. I kept laughing and having to bow my head to hide it. The midsummer sunlight was blindingly bright. I knocked on the hospital room door, but there was no reply. I knocked again, then it opened slightly. It was oddly cool inside the room and no one was there. It was only full of a quiet darkness. Is this the flower that he brings to the girl in the hallway in the video? I left the hospital room. I had met her here when I was bored and stifled and pushing my wheelchair like crazy up and down the hallway. She had appeared so suddenly that I barely had time to stop. And there she stood, a girl with her hair tied up in a ponytail. When I left the hospital, I saw a bench. I remembered that we had listened to music together and drawn on that bench. We saw them together, sitting there. And over there on that roof, we had shared strawberry milk. I was still holding the wildflower in my hand, but now there was no one to give it to. Okay, so JK over here trying to give a little girl a flower. But let's go back in time. September 30th, year 20. Jungkook, you're not still going there, are you? I didn't answer. I just stood staring at the toes of my shoes. When I didn't answer, he hit me on the head with the attendance file. But even so, I didn't open my mouth. It was a classroom I used with the Hyungs. After the day I had followed the Hyungs around and we had discovered that classroom, there wasn't a single day I hadn't gone. Maybe the Hyungs didn't know. Sometimes they didn't come because they had other plans or busy part-time jobs. I hadn't seen either Seokjin Hyung or Yoongi Hyung in a few days, but not me. I didn't skip a single day. There were days when nobody came at all, but that was okay. Even if it wasn't today, then they would come tomorrow. And if not tomorrow, then the day after. So it was okay. So he's like, they'll make it here eventually. I promise. You only learn bad things following them around. He hit me again. I lifted my gaze and looked at him. He hit me again. The image came to me of Yoongi Hyung hitting me. I gritted my teeth and endured. I didn't want to lie and say I hadn't been going. Now I was standing again in front of the classroom. It seemed like the Youngs would be there if I opened the door. It seemed like they would look up from the game they were playing and ask why I was so late. Seokjin Hyung and Namjoon Hyung would be reading books. Yoongi Hyung would be playing the piano and Hosuk Hyung and Jimin Hyung would be dancing. But when I opened the door, only Hosuk Hyung was there. He was cleaning up the things we had left behind the classroom. I held the door handle and just stood there. Hyung came over and put his arm around my shoulders. Then he led me outside. Let's go. The classroom door closed behind us. I suddenly realized those days were gone and they would never return. Like he walks in, sees J-Hope just like cleaning up the last remnants and he's like, We ain't doing this no more, boo. We gotta cut it. Cut the script. All right, let's go ahead and read the last note we have here, which is JK from May 2nd, 22nd. This is his you note, which was unique. Unique. Here we go. When I lifted my head, I was in front of Hyung's container. I opened the door and went in. I gathered up the scattered garments, covered myself with them, and hunkered down. The cold descended on me. My whole body trembled and I wanted to cry, but no tears came. When I had opened the door and came in, Hyung was standing on the bed. Flames were shooting up from the edge of the sheet. In that moment, my whole body became entangled in rage and fear I couldn't hold back. I wasn't someone who spoke well. I was slow to express my feelings or to convince anyone else. Tears welled up and I coughed and words could not come out. As I ran to the flames, the only words I could manage to spit out were, "We promised to go to the beach together." Oh shit. This is the scene where JK is pulling Suga out that I just recently saw. I'm guessing. Why are you like that? Did you have a bad dream? I opened my eyes to someone shaking my shoulder. It was Hyung. For some reason, I felt a sense of relief. Hyung felt my forehead and said I had a fever. It seemed like I did. The inside of my mouth was boiling, but I was unbearably cold. I had a throbbing headache and my throat hurt. I barely managed to eat the medicine Hyung brought. Sleep some more. Let's talk later. I nodded. Then I spoke. Can I become an adult like you, Hyung? Hyung looked back. Stop. What is this about growing up? Stop trying to be an adult. It's okay. All right, so to be honest with you guys, I do feel like I gained a little bit more info. Not that I can tell you right now what I gained, but there was a few connections I made along the way, things that I will go through whenever I'm editing and when I'm creating the timeline again to try to connect again. And like I said, we'll report back to y'all with some storyline videos in the future. I don't know if many people do this on YouTube. They go along and read the notes or not, but I've been having so much fun. So I hope that you guys did too. Ignore my voice tomorrow if it's a little, because that's what happens after note days. But I hope that you enjoyed. Once again, I won't be looking at these note comments, but I'm so excited to be able to get closer in the storyline with y'all. So make sure you click like, comment, and subscribe. I'll be back with a timeline and stuff soon. But until then, I love y'all. Bye. I would love to know them by name. So